Let's begin with our friends in the Big Ten. And Tom, I'm going to let you get first crack at this. His Big Ten power rankings are available on CBSSports.com right now if you want to go check them out. They include a good look at the top of the conference and a lot of, Keke Palmer voice. I am so sorry for that man for like the bottom 4 teams where it's like you can go and check out which ones they are, all facing an uphill battle. Tom, what's your first bold prediction for the Big Ten?
My bold prediction for the Big Ten in 2025 is that there will be more than 4 coaching changes following the season.
Can you give us, all right, so
I think if you just look at the situations, all right? Not saying these are the ones that will happen. I'm just saying there's possibilities here. I think at Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, if things don't turn around, he's in jeopardy. I think if Lincoln Riley and USC have another mediocre season, he's in jeopardy. I think if Mike Locksley has another terrible season, he's in jeopardy. And then I think there are other things to look at. Penn State entering the year with incredibly high expectations for this team. Like they're mentioning the words national title. You didn't really hear the words national title flown around Happy Valley much in recent years. It was always just, we're going to win the Big Ten and we're going to beat Ohio State. If they fail and they come up short, does that finally cost James Franklin his job at Penn State? I don't think so, but I do think it makes it more likely than it has in the past. Now we go to Iowa. Kirk Ferentz might retire. He's reaching that point in that age where you have to wonder if it's going to be something he decides to do. And if Iowa has another kind of mediocre-ish season and he's kind of tired of dealing with the new landscape of what college football has become, maybe he steps down. I look at Minnesota. If PJ Fleck has another really good year at Minnesota, maybe he leaves. If he has a bad year at Minnesota, maybe he's gone. I just think that there are a lot of situations in the league where the coach isn't exactly on the most firm ground. And hell, I'll even mention Michigan. What happens if Michigan tanks again under Sharon Moore? Do they give him a 3rd season? I don't know.
It's not, we discussed this. It is not expensive if Michigan wants to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And if Michigan's got all the Oracle money to get a Bryce Underwood, they could probably move on from Moore. Even if that contract has protected himself from NCAA issues, it's still not as cost prohibitive as you've got with some of these other deals elsewhere in the country.
So let me ask you this. In your mind, how bold is this? Like if I said the over under is 3, are you snap calling over 3, or is it more like you'd have to have a 2.5 as the over under for you to be like to
2.5 would be one I would definitely take. Over 3, I'd kind of be like, all right, what's the juice? Like I don't think 4 is. I don't think 5 is likely. I just think that there's a bigger chance than I think most people would realize going into the year of guys losing their gigs.
So it is fired. It's not coaches.
No, some could just leave on their own or retire. Just 5
I think you left
changes.
out if Ryan Day went back to back. I know somebody in there said, what if they lose to Michigan again? Would they fire him? It's not that crazy a question to ask. It is Ohio State. But I think also the likelihood that maybe Ryan Day goes somewhere, in the NFL potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes some sense too.
Would show cause for Sharon Moore bring about anything?
Would they keep him? Show cause?
I kind of have a bold prediction about something similar to this, by the way.
In another conference or here?
In a different league.
Okay. All right. 4. I would say that's rightfully bold. Are you questioning the spiciness of it, Bud?
I was clarifying the spiciness. Yeah. How bold, right?
Yeah.
Is it like 6 peppers, 4 peppers?
Well, I just
on the Rory Scovel scale, how many peppers?
Right.
Yeah. I like all the domino ones that you've got there too, where you've got different reasons why jobs could move. So I can rock with that one. DK, what do you have in the Big Ten?
All right, so I'm glad that I was worried this could have potentially been taken by somebody else on this show. September 20th will feature a game that is a playoff play-in game. And it is not. September 20th has UF versus UM. It has Auburn versus Oklahoma. It has SMU versus TCU. It has UNC versus UCF. Some of those would have been bold. But it also features in the Big Ten, Illinois on the road at Indiana. And I was gonna say Indiana's not going anywhere, but I'm not that confident. I think they could have an upgraded quarterback. They've got a lot of guys. We mentioned some of their returners that are still coming back, even though they did lose a lot. But Illinois is a team that is third in returning production. They bring back their quarterback. Brett Bielema's got this team playing with a tremendous amount of confidence. They had the big bowl win. They're coming off a really good season. And the schedule, I think, is manageable. I would lean towards it being Illinois on this one because I do think 10-2, like we saw last year, is in that conversation. They should have been in the conversation more last season, potentially, just right outside there. They kind of, and Tom brought it up quite a few times about how their resume stacked up just as good as some of those SEC teams. I think that September 20th, Illinois, Indiana is going to be a playoff determining game. Whoever wins that one makes the playoffs.
That's bold.
That's really bold.
Let's go.
There we go.
I mean, because I'll be writing on this in the near future, but just a fun little fact of trivia, because the AP poll is not out yet, but odds are, based on what we're seeing from people who do release their own like top 25s, we've seen post-spring top 25s. Illinois is in the top 15 of a lot of them. So the odds are Illinois will be in the AP poll when it comes out. Do you want to know when the last time Illinois began a season ranked in the AP poll and finished a season ranked in the AP poll?
Oh, no.
1990.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's been a minute.
Not this.
Chip, you have long said North Carolina's biggest rival's expectations. The same thing can be said of Illinois, because every time they come off a good season, that has been the one problem that they have had. They cannot sustain it. Even under Bielema, they had the really good season 3 years ago, and they followed it up with a 5-7 season before going to 10 last year. So it's one of those things where, just as an Illini fan, it's like, even though I'm optimistic about this team, I'm terrified because everybody thinks they're going to be good.
Yeah, the scars are awesome. I mean, it's not awesome for you right now in this moment, but that is like the thing that fans live through, because everybody on the outside can be like, look at what you were bringing back. Look at your lines of scrimmage. Look at your quarterback. Look at the way the game has been recruiting. And Tom's like, oh, buddy, we have seen this before.
If you did the favored in games, how many games would they be favored in?
Illinois?
8 or 9?
I mean, yeah.
4, 5, 6. I mean, it depends.
Is Illinois favored at Duke?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think they will be. I think they'll be favored.
Regardless.
I think they will be, but as Thomas mentioned here on the show in the last couple of weeks, Illinois fans are writing W's beside that on their little printout schedules, and they should not.
Yeah,
they need to get to the left half of this screen with one loss or fewer. Like, if you want to go to the playoffs,
the game that scares me the most probably is at Washington.
That's going to be a very tough game.
That's a sneaky one.
USC should be a tough game. Yeah.
Which helps.
And you're also coming, like the Ohio State game, you're coming off of that. You do get the bye, but who knows? It's just psyche-wise and physically how you're feeling there.
If you get to Halloween with 2 losses or fewer, I think your chances of going to the playoffs are great. I think 3 losses or fewer, that's going to be a little more challenging, but it's possible. They don't have the big non-conference game unless Duke follows up last year with a great year this year.
Right.
9 regular season wins this year. Their win total's at 6.5 right now. So the expectation is, even though Duke's not going to totally like fall off a cliff or anything, we are going to still be looking at a little bit of a step back. Carson somewhat believes in you. He jumped in early, said bold prediction. Illinois goes 11-1 and makes the playoff. But for every side, there is another. Brad, playing devil's advocate here with Illinois. What if they're Oklahoma State?
That's mean.
That's a little hard.
That is mean.
Really?
And I don't think they'll fall. Like, if it comes short and his bold prediction isn't right, I still think they're going to be a really good team.
Yeah, right. Well, what about the Indiana side of that?
So that's the one where I think Indiana is one of the more fascinating storylines. I saw a lot of bold predictions saying they're going to be back at 4 wins. I think Kirk Cignetti's got this team. And again, we were looking it up the other day at how many guys they have returning, and even guys that carried over from James Madison who are sort of used to winning and playing for championships. And I think he's kind of reset the expectations. Again, very well aware that this is, they've only done it 1 year. And that's why I think this year is so important for Indiana to kind of showcase, hey, we're not going anywhere. Because if they do, next season, they'll be right back to kind of where they've always been, which is people chalking up W's against them.
I mean, the non-conference is an absolute joke again, which is, I think Cignetti was very, very smart for taking this job, right? Like, and Indiana did this on purpose. They dropped the Louisville game last year and replaced it with a nobody, right? I mean, Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State is terrible. So you should have 3 there. And then you're getting
I mean,
The
Penn
only
State.
team
The
in the bottom,
back-to-back roadies is kind of
Yeah.
scary.
the only team in the bottom of the Big Ten that they miss is Northwestern.
Yeah.
Because they get Purdue, they get Maryland, they get Michigan State, they get UCLA, and
Wisconsin.
they get Wisconsin. Now you can debate if Wisconsin's in like the bottom quarter of the Big Ten or if they're just bottom half, but I'd be hard pressed to see them top half.
That's why I said I lean toward Illinois of this game, the winner. But if Indiana does win it, they can carry that and they could steal Iowa on the road, who again, that might be somebody's bold prediction. I saw some of those too. Some people saying Iowa's going to turn it, be right back towards the top. The thing that worries me for Indiana is I don't think 10-2 with that schedule gets in, especially if they lose. And what happened last year, they won't get the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to get many people pounding the table for them because of what happened last year.
I need to, I would like for us to set a calendar reminder so that going into that weekend, we just have an entire big game breakdown that is dubbed Playoff Eliminator in Illinois with a full 8 minutes. The winner here is a lock for the playoff. That's what we're handing out. Let's go.
I mean, it's probably big noon kickoff, right?
Could be.
You said
I don't think a
Florida,
3-loss
Miami.
Indiana's getting in.
No. Oh, a 3-loss? Zero chance.
No chance.
But I was saying 10-2 is even dicey for Indiana. For Illinois, I think they could handle it.
I mean, if they lose to Oregon and Penn State both on the road, but they have beaten Illinois and at Iowa, they're going to have another probably 2 bowl team wins in there, right? So I don't think a 2-loss Indiana is out.
Which ironically, their resume probably would be better with 10-2, but they might get left out.
Yeah.
I'm worried. I've got 2 for the Big Ten, and we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. I've got a mild and a spicy. So what do you want to hear first, the mild or the spicy?
Mild.
Penn State wins the Big Ten.
What?
That's a bold prediction.
I was embarrassed to give my other one. I was going to say leave it off.
Okay. Well,
spicy. So the favorite or the one of the favorites?
Well, and I was just taking myself inside the mind of a Penn State fan who's just been constantly there, but then, even last year, you get so close and you just fall short. You've got the losses to Ohio State, the losses to Michigan. It didn't feel bold to an objective person, but I felt like to convince a Penn State fan, we work with a ton of them, convince them that they are actually going to win the Big Ten ahead of all those other teams. But that's why I've got to back up. College football playoff. The coach returns. The program makes its first time. I got USC. USC makes the college football playoff. I read into action. I read into inaction. Given all of the changes around the football program for USC, you would think that if Lincoln Riley thought someone other than Jaden Maeva was out there that would give the Trojans their best chance to win, that USC might have come calling. I think that with the decision to go with him late last season, doubling down on your commitment to him, you don't have anybody at joining the program that's going to cause him to look over his shoulder. Maybe the way that Miller Moss did, Jaden Maeva, late addition to the team before you head into fall camp, just kind of always lurking there. If strength and conditioning tightens up, if there's a mentality flip with this Trojans team, I'm looking for bold at-large candidates in a Big Ten that I think can get 4 teams into the college football playoff again. Fight on. I'll go USC.
Okay. I mean, what record gets them in?
10-2.
Yeah.
Notre Dame game is huge.
The non-con is, Notre Dame's non-con, so
right.
That's a real one.
What losses?
Does 10-2 get them in? I don't think so.
Because if they beat Notre Dame, that means they've lost to 2 of those other teams on that schedule.
They could lose to Michigan.
They could lose, yeah.
So if they beat Notre Dame and lose to Illinois and Oregon or Oregon, Michigan.
Right.
They lose to a playoff team in Illinois. I mean, hey, right there.
Yeah. Okay. So the Illinois being on there.
No Ohio State, no Penn State.
You probably need one of Michigan State, UCLA, Northwestern to be a bowl game. Because when you're looking at the first page of the resume, I think that helps.
If they're 10-2 with losses to Notre Dame and Oregon, is the rest of that enough?
We'll see.
That's
depends on
Michigan,
the games.
Illinois, Iowa.
I think it is. You got to remember the brands. Remember the brands.
And
It's going to depend how it looks too.
Yeah. And the thing about a 12-team playoff, guys, remember, 12 teams do have to fill out this thing. So, we don't know whether there's a bunch of whether there's a 9-3 log jam like we saw when the committee just throws its hands up because they don't want to have to pick between Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss because everybody's beating each other. And so they're like, sure, SMU, fine. Okay, you win. You get to come on in here. So, yeah, I think that when we're looking outside of those obvious options, I'm just going to look to what is kind of a quiet confidence that's being built. Now, have I been burned by offseason USC hype in May before? You're damn right I have. But the scars on this hand still have me putting my hand on the stove. Okay. So, yeah.
It's because of these scars I can't even feel the stove anymore.
I do think you mentioned it there. Firing their strength coach when they did, bringing in Tremaine Carroll, who's a pretty well-known, respected name, who's had success at Kansas State, but also LSU. I think that was one of the first moves, too, where maybe it was the GM's influence on Lincoln Riley. Because Lincoln Riley's been with, what was it, Beanie, what's his name? I forget his last name.
He's been loyal to his guys.
Beanie Wiley.
Beanie
Wiley.
Yeah.
I think they saw a glaring deficiency. Because remember, when they went and got Dan Lynn, it was like, oh, they needed toughness. A lot of toughness comes from the strength and conditioning program. Like those coaches are probably the third most important hire outside of coordinators. So I think making that switch now, you could argue it's too late. I mean, they still have all summer to get up to speed and get some toughness in this team.
I also don't think USC, even with the coaching changes last year, USC was not horrendous when it comes to defense, when it comes to some of those things you were concerned about when they making the transition to the Big Ten. They were competitive against Penn State. They were competitive against Michigan. They were competitive against Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame had 2 pick sixes in that game, right?
Yeah.
I think if you're looking for a team that could be able to crash it, I'll be riding with the Trojans on this one.
I love Grant.
Speaking of the market, you have a rant?
No, I said I love Grant's comment. USC won't be doing P90X workouts anymore. That's pretty good. I was thinking more of Billy Blanks, like
Daddy private chat on that. So I don't get you in trouble. So if we talk about reading the market as well, Georgia's extremely happy with Branch, right? Jordan Hill predicted Branch to be Georgia's leading receiver. Florida State's really happy with Deuce Robinson. People came after him after his spring start. So what does that say about the receivers on USC?
Right.
The Jacoby Lane and those guys, they're pretty damn good. And it may just be the case where, like, maybe you have a Jameson Williams type situation here where you're like, well, he couldn't get on the field at Ohio State. It's like, that's true. And you know what? He ended up being pretty damn good at Alabama. And I guess he's on the Lions. I don't know if he's any good in the NFL, but he was good enough to get drafted.
When he's not gambling.
Sure. Right. Okay. Who amongst us? But ultimately, it's maybe USC's receivers are really that damn good.
Right.
Also, who in the portal would you really wanted at quarterback over Maiava? I don't think Maiava's great, but he's good enough to beat out Miller Moss. Mm-hmm. And I guess Louisville decided like Moss now. Would you take Beck with the elbow if you can't get and learn your system in spring? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Would you take Mateer?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mateer would have been if Mateer wasn't tied to Arbuckle, and if all those things, if all these things were happening in a vacuum, and Mateer is just a prospect that USC could have had, then if USC did not believe in Jaden Maiava, I think they would have taken him.
Mateer's such a wild card this year, man. You got people who think he's like a legitimate first-round NFL guy, and you got some other folks who are like,
I'm more in that latter
West
group.
Schedule.
Yeah.
Not good at all against the better teams he played.
Yeah, I'm more in the latter.
I don't know what to be yet. That's such a weird situation with the Pac-12.
All right, Bud, what you got for Big Ten?
Penn State's offense will be better than its defense.
Ooh.
I think they have better players on offense now. And you get Drew back. I think Kotelnicki's a good coach. You have a changeover there with with Knowles coming in to coach the defense. And obviously, they're still really talented on defense, but I don't know, man. It's hard to just replace guy after guy. Like you lose Chop Robinson, all of a sudden Abdul Carter's unblockable. Like just year after year, like you lose Micah Parsons, and all of a sudden Chop Robinson. That's hard to do over and over and over again. And so I think I see a little backslide for Penn State's defense, and I do think I see a step forward for the offense. I think for the first time in Penn State fans can tell me in the chat, I think first time in a long time the offense is better than the defense.
We've had that at some places before, and it's a little bit jarring when these teams that are just led by their defense go into the following season, and then you realize like no, they kind of need to outscore some teams right now. We obviously know Singleton and Allen. You comfortable with the wide receiver position with the upgrades?
I think I'm more comfortable with it. Yeah.
I mean, we got another USC guy, Hudson. You know,
the offensive line could be really good, by the way. Like that, we talk about some of these offensive lines. Florida fans in our chat telling us they think they have the best offensive line in the country. It's like, okay, that's an opinion. It's certainly a good one. Cole Kublik thinks it's fifth in the SEC, but regardless, you know, he watches a lot. Notre Dame, Miami, but maybe Penn State you could talk about a little bit here. Like they feel good about that.
I like that a lot. Let's see. Lane said his hot take was Ohio State and Michigan both start the season 1-1. Ohio State, of course, has Texas week 1. Michigan has Oklahoma in week 2. I would assume
that those hot.
What?
That doesn't feel that hot to me.
Doesn't feel that hot. Let's see. Brett with a little of, taking some ownership and accountability. My bold prediction last year was that Ohio State would have a tough year, that Ryan Day would be fired, that Billy Napier would be fired, and Ryan Day would take over as the new head coach at Florida. Brett says, I'll stick to my day job. Hey, listen, man.
Nah, don't worry, Brett. Come on in.
Hey, if that day job lets you watch us during the day, that's a pretty good day job.
Hey.
You know how many views that video would have gotten? You need to talk to Brett.
Oh, he's got the
exactly. He might fit right in.
a funny one from, or maybe he's very serious. Username Emperor Fabulous. Penn State wins the national title, and people still say James Franklin can't win the big one.
Who would it have to be? Who would the opponent have to be for people to really
they're
TCU? Like if they get a TCU type, title
Penn
game.
Penn State wins Big Ten, gets the bye, and then there's a bunch of upsets in the first round. So they get the G5 team, and then they're getting the 9 seed, and then in the title game they get a 6 seed.
I like that.
I think Penn State fans would take it.
100%. I mean,
I think Drew Allers. I think there's so much pressure on him, the scrutiny on him, but I do think year 2. I mean, he was solid in most of the season. Just came up short in that the big game. But I think another year, and sometimes you can be so reliant on one player, which they were with Tyler Warren, and they did go out and address that receiver position. I think Drew Aller, I think he could take a step forward too. And if he does, then we are talking about Penn State in that position, playing for a national championship. It's
the smallest step to go from where Penn State has been consistently to where they want to be, and it is the hardest step. And every coach and every player who's ever been a part of a program for a long time has always said that. And we are going to watch one of the sports storied programs in the Nittany Lions go through that this year. Thrilled I'm not emotionally invested in it. Cannot wait to watch every single step along the way.